Hey folks, how's it going? All right, so anytime one particular story takes center stage on mainstream media, we need to start asking ourselves, what is it trying to distract us from? And of course, the one story on all the channels right now and all the news media is Trump and 18 others, 18 of his associates surrendering to the Fulton County Jail due to the indictment here in Georgia. And while that is its own subject with its own things to discuss, that's not the subject of this video. What we need to be asking ourselves is, okay, that's an issue in itself, an issue of concern, regardless of what side of the political aisle you find yourself on. That should be an issue of concern. But that, because it's such a divisive issue, is being used to distract you from something else that's happening at the exact same time that is potentially more important to you. Now, that's not to say that what's happening with Trump, like I said, it is its own issue, and there are concerns that are very legitimate that have nothing to do with January 6th or election interference on Trump's part. But I digress. You know, I'll leave that to the side for now. The one issue that I've been seeing on some coverage on online that's I'm not really seeing coverage of on mainstream media, on like CNN, Fox, what have you, is Brics. And I want to go back because I've got 3 articles here that are relevant to this video. It was I don't know, it's prior to the Brics meeting in Johannesburg. The meeting was August 22nd to the 24th. For the 2 or 3 days before that meeting, on Bitcoin.com, there was an article that titled "US Dollar to Remain Major Global Currency, South Africa's Brics Sherpa Says." All right. And I'll get to why this is important later, since this is such an old article, basically. Brics plan to discuss trade in national currencies at its summit, but de-dollarization is not on the agenda, South Africa's Brics Sherpa stated. The talks in Johannesburg next week will also focus on the expansion of the bloc of emerging economies, and the diplomat doesn't see this as a challenge to any other organization. All right, so this is like a 3-page article. Increasing trade in local currencies will be a subject of the talks between the member states of Brics, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, at their meeting in Johannesburg on August 22nd to 24th. South Africa's top diplomat in charge of relations with the organization, Anil Suklal, I probably just mispronounced that, but while the bloc will consider the establishment of a common payment system and is likely to form a technical committee to explore the issue of a joint currency, it does not intend to discuss replacing the US dollar as the world's de facto global currency, he also said, and elaborated. Trading in local currencies is firmly on the agenda. There is no agenda item of de-dollarization on the Brics agenda. Brics is not calling for de-dollarization. The dollar will continue to be a major global currency. That's a reality. I'm going to include a link to these articles below, by the way, just to show you that just because you read something in one article doesn't mean that it's actually the truth. Brics has been looking to deepen the trade in national currencies of its members as part of its efforts to increase its influence in the world, as it already represents over 42% of the planet's population and accounts for 23% of global gross domestic product and 18% of international trade. It goes on to cover a few other things. and I'm going to skip all the way down to the very last paragraph. In his interview, Anil Suklal also emphasized that Brics is not in competition with any other grouping, but aims to promote the interests of the developing world. Quote, there's an unfortunate narrative being developed that Brics is anti-West, that Brics was created as competition to the G7 or the global north, Suklal noted. What we do seek is to advance the agenda of the global south and to build a more inclusive, representative, just, fair global architecture. All right, keep that in mind. They're repeating constantly right before this meeting that there's no intent to discuss de-dollarization, and they're not attempting to compete with the G7. All right, this next article comes from Reuters.com. Brics welcomes new members and push to reshuffle world order. Johannesburg, August 24th. The Brics bloc of developing nations agreed on Thursday to admit Saudi Arabia, Iran, Ethiopia, Egypt, Argentina, and the United Arab Emirates in a move aimed at accelerating its push to reshuffle a world order it sees as outdated. In deciding in favor of an expansion, the bloc's first in 13 years, Brics leaders left the door open to future enlargements as dozens more countries voiced interest in joining a grouping they hope can level the global playing field. And by leveling the global playing field, what they're talking about is what I've discussed in the past, with the dollar being the default currency of the world. Up until now, for decades now, all trade has had to have been done in U.S. currency. It's given America an extreme advantage over other countries. It's benefited us in a lot of ways. We've abused that benefit, that ability, on many occasions. I'm not going to lie. The U.S. has definitely abused that power. We've used it to control other countries. We've used it to basically play nation making, nation building. Put people in charge of other countries that are more favorable to us, and many, many other things that we shouldn't have been doing. But all of that's coming to an end. The expansion adds economic heft to Brics, whose current members are China, the world's second largest economy, as well as Brazil, Russia, India, and South Africa. It could also amplify its declared ambition to become a champion of the global south. But long-standing tensions could linger between members who want to forge the grouping into a counterweight to the West, notably China, Russia, and now Iran, and those that continue to nurture close ties to the United States and Europe. The 6 new candidates will formally become members on January 1st, 2024. Brics has embarked on a new chapter in its effort to build a world that is fair, a world that is just, a world that is also inclusive and prosperous. We have consensus on the first phase of this expansion process, and other phases will follow. So this is an ongoing process. This is also a long article, I will tell you that. It's like 6 pages long. I'm not going to cover everything in the article. But just a few days prior to this, they were talking about there would be no global competition, there would be no de-dollarization. And here they are already expanding the nations involved in Brics, nearly doubling its size, or doubling the number of nations involved. Some of the members support fostering the creation of a multipolar global order. So there's a lot of shifting and shuffling going on here. There's going to be a lot of changes taking place. But one thing that I wanted to add is that in another article from WatcherGuru.com, or WatcherGuru rather, Brics is to officially abandon the US dollar. According to Brazil's president, the Brics economic alliance is officially set to abandon the U.S. dollar for trade settlements. Moreover, the development aligns with recent de-dollarization efforts embraced by the bloc as they continue to promote the use of local currencies internationally. Brazil's president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, confirmed that the development at this week's BRICS summit. Additionally, the bloc announced its agreement to expand. Changing the geopolitical landscape, the alliance is set to welcome 6 additional countries by 2024. The highly anticipated BRICS summit arrived this week with the entire world watching. Specifically, the geopolitical sector sought to see what could come from the gathering. Now, after expansion had already been announced, the BRICS is set to officially abandon the U.S. dollar for trade settlements. The move falls in line with economic policies the bloc had been set to embrace and was confirmed by Brazil's president. All right, this is going to have a notable impact on the performance and strength of the dollar. And this just goes to show they were previously saying there wouldn't be de-dollarization. Myself and many other YouTubers have been talking about how this is coming. We've been mentioning it for a long time. Countries they see the weakness in the U.S. dollar. They see the problems with the United States, dependence on the United States and the U.S. dollar. And not only that, but the problems with our own economy, the way we're just printing money left and right, devaluing our currency like it's nothing. And if we go down, with the dollar being the default currency of the world, the rest of the world will go down with us. This is an attempt to get away from dependence on us so that if we do go down, they can still stand. They won't be taken down with us. All these people saying that the currency isn't, they're not going to drop the dollar, don't believe it for a second. This is happening, and it will continue to happen, and more are going to sign on to it. It's also why a lot of these countries have been buying and stockpiling gold. It's not covered a lot. A lot of people aren't aware of it, but countries like Russia, China, India, they've been buying tons and tons of gold. And in some cases, doubling and almost tripling their gold reserves, because they know how unstable and unreliable the U.S. dollar is in the U.S. economy. They've been preparing for this for years, and this is just the beginning, folks. The goal is to eventually move completely away from the dollar. I'm telling you that right now. Eventually, our dollar will be dropped by everybody. It will no longer have the default status that it's had for decades. And when that happens, we are going to lose a ton of wealth as a country. A lot of our debt will be sold off by other countries because they don't want to be stuck holding our debt if our dollar isn't worth anything, and if we're on the verge of an economic collapse, they're not going to be wanting to hold all that. So be prepared for this, folks. This is happening right now. Everybody's focused on Trump and the indictments, but this is happening right now alongside that. And again, the Trump indictments, there is some concern to that. There's some legitimate reasons to be paying attention to it, but so many people are ignoring everything else but that. I'm even seeing it happen on several YouTube channels. So just be aware, folks. The day of the dollar is coming to an end. There will come a time when we're no longer the default currency of the world. And it's coming very, very quickly. In fact, I would say right now, they're saying that China is the second largest economy in the world. I would say in the next year or two, they're going to be the largest economy in the world. The United States will no longer have that distinction. You could probably argue that they're already at that point. that we're no longer the largest economy in the world at this moment. There are grounds for that argument. What I can't stress enough is that the risk that this poses to us here in America, because when we're dropped as the default currency, the value of our dollar is going to drop like a rock. It's going to crash. Our economy is going to crash, and anybody who's holding wealth in US dollars, they're pretty much going to lose everything. That's my view of it anyway. That's what I see happening. And the best way you can do, the best thing that you can do to prepare for that is to not hold your wealth in cash. I mean, if you want to hold your wealth in real estate, that's fine. If you want to invest in gold and silver, that's fine. If you want to invest in livestock and gardens, things like that, preps that can hold their value, that's fine as well. But understand that this change is coming and you need to be ready for it. I mean, it's a real simple fact. And if you can't see that these changes are coming, the world is in a total flux right now. The entire world is in flux. From shifting global powers, economies all around the world under strain. Even China's economy right now is suffering some major blows. And economic collapses tend to lead to wars. We're already facing wars on multiple fronts. And I've mentioned before how this is we're potentially already in a not a cold civil war, but a cold world war. You know, it's already happening. We're just doing it through another country right now with Russia. But for all intents and purposes, we're on the brink of World War III. I mean, you could even say it's here already. I mean, we're sending you've got all of these countries that are sending Ukraine weapons to fight Russia. That in itself is a world war. We're just not in an active wartime mode right now. But I think that could be coming, particularly before the election. So yeah, the world is in flux with all these geopolitical changes. Global power is changing, economies are shifting. Some are collapsing, some are growing stronger. The U.S. is on the brink of civil war. I'm not going to lie about that. We're edging closer and closer every single day, particularly with the way our politicians are going at each other. So just be ready, folks. Prep like your life depends on it, because it does. At some point, all of this crap is going to break loose, and when it does, it's going to be a nightmare, and you need to be ready for it. That's all I've got for right now. I appreciate you watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Stay safe, take care of yourselves and each other, and don't get complacent, folks. And understand that when there's a news story on every news channel that you turn to, there might be reason to be concerned about that particular story, but you also need to look at other things that are happening that your attention is being drawn away from. But that's all I've got. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.